Jai Hind to all. Myself Shikha Agarwal, Assistant Professor in IT Department from Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. Today, we are going to discuss about a cloud computing topic, that is a public, private and hybrid cloud. Now, if I am talking the different types of cloud, in the case of different types of cloud, as we know, the types of a cloud is being divided in the three types. The first is public, private and hybrid. If I'm talking about these types of clouds, each and every cloud is having its own characteristics, where it is being using and various applications on the basis of the different types of cloud. Now in this table you can see the keywords which is related to the different types of cloud. Suppose if I'm talking about the scalability, it is being the parameter for the all the three clouds, that it is very scalable to as per the needs of the users. Then in the case of security, if I'm talking about public cloud, it is not secure. It is not secure at all. Why? Because it is being accessible by the public only. So if it is accessible by the public only, then we can say it is not providing as that level of security. But in the case of private and a hybrid, it provides a better security and so on. So that's why we can say it is having a different types of cloud, having a different characteristics and simultaneously having a different applications. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about all the three types of cloud computing, one after another, including their characteristics, their working patterns, their examples and so on. After that, first of all, we are going to talk about the public cloud computing. If I'm talking about a public, when we talk about the word public, it means all the services, all the resources and the applications is being available to the customers all over the internet. That's why it is called public cloud computing. So we can see the application. So in that case, whenever we create a cloud platform that is based on the cloud computing model, and in which all the services that is being offered in the form of resources, application storages and to the customers all over the internet is called as a public cloud computing. If I'm talking about a public, so simultaneously whatever the resources we are providing to the platform, that all is to be on the publicly, which can be have a shared among the various similar type of users or different type of users, and it is being accessible all over the public network. A public network means, if I'm talking about the public network, it means we are talking about internet. Now after that, if most of the applications that is being offered by the internet is, for example, we can say we are talking about the budget concept startups. So we know the high level of security features to save all these problems. And in that case, if I'm talking about a software as a service, it provides a such a type of a cloud storage and all the online applications which is being used by the public cloud computing platform. So we can see the example, that is a budget consciousness startups. Now after that, if I'm talking about the advantages of a publicly, yes, first of all, it will offers the greater scalability, because as per the number of users is being increasing, if the customers are increasing or decreasing, so we can easily offer the great scalability. Second thing, if everything is to be available on a public platform, then we can say it is a cost effective and through which we can easily save our money. The second is, it offers a reliability, because there is no single point of failure. If we are talking about the services, the services is being distributed among all other channels, so we can say there is no interruption related to the security. The next is, if I'm talking about the services on the public cloud, then we are having all the three types of services which is being easily available on the public cloud services, because through the internet we can access any type, anywhere, from any location, any type of a data by using the SaaS, PaaS and IaaS. The next is, it is in a location independent. Why it is location independent? Because all the services are available publicly, and whosoever client is located on any location, they can access the data from any and anywhere, from any location. Yes, if there are certain advantages, then simultaneously in the case of public cloud, we are having a certain disadvantages also. First of all, if everything is to be available publicly, so we cannot say there is a control over the network. If there is no control, it means we can say there is no privacy and security overall on the network. Second thing, if I am talking about the sensitive applications, in the case of sensitive applications, because everything is to be public, so you cannot access your data or you cannot share your data among the n number of users. So in that case, what happens? You cannot access your sensitive applications on the public cloud. The next is it lacks completely flexibility, because whenever we are having a platforms, we are more dependent onto that platform. Whosoever platform is being provided to the user, we have to be more dependent onto that platform only. We cannot access our data from any other platforms also. And the next is there is no stringent protocol management onto the data network. Whatever the data is available, you have to use it, and there is no protocol is to be rely on to it. Now after this we are going to talk about the private cloud computing. If I am using the word private, as we know that it is being hosted between the two companies or between the two trusted third party vendors and so on. So in that case, if I am talking about the private cloud computing, we can talk about the cloud computing platform which provides a very secure environment with a dedicated storage and the hardware resources which is being provided to a particular organization or between the two organizations. Then we can say it is called as a private cloud computing. Second thing, as I have been talking about, within a company or outsourced to a trusted or a reliable to the third party. So in that case, we need to maintain our system. The first, if we are providing within our organization, so it means the employees of that organization will use that private network. And simultaneously, or if we are talking about the second part, that is a outsourced to a trusted, which is being executable by using the third party vendors. So we have to trust over the third party vendors so that we can easily make a network private. Simultaneously, if I'm talking about the private cloud, it provides a control over the privacy and the data security in comparison to the public cloud computing, and all the resources which is being available in the private network, that is being shared among the platform only, which is being shared among within an organization only. That is why it provides a better performance in comparison to the public cloud. Simultaneously, if I am talking about more and more security, control charges or privacy of the data, then we can also allow to edit or additionally layer into the security and the company access to provide the confidentiality of the data, and simultaneously we can also share the sensitive data within a private cloud network or within a private cloud environment. Why? Because whenever we are creating an environment within an organization, so we can easily access the data of confidential data also and sensitive data also, because that is the data useful for the company employees only. Now after that we are going to talk about the advantages of using the public or private clouds. In the advantages, in the case of public cloud, we know that it does not offer the security and privacy, but in the case of private, we are having a more security and privacy because it is being established within an organization or trusted over the third party vendors. Second thing, whatever the control, if we talk about, everything is to be done within an organization. Either if I am talking about the hardware resources, configuration, manipulations, editing, addition of the data and so on. Whatever the things we are talking about, everything is to be in a control of company's need. That is why we are talking about providing an advantage that we are having a more control over a system configuration as per the company needs. The second point is that it provides a greater reliability. Why? It provides the greater reliability because whatever the things or whatever the work we are doing, everything is to be comes under its organization performance. That is why if their system is to be failed, their data is to be finished off. That is why it provides the greater reliability. Simultaneously, it enhances the quality of services which is offered by the clients also. And lastly, it will save the money, because once they have purchased any software applications or anything, they can easily save the money, so that once they have paid, then they can utilize that application all over their network. Now, if I'm talking about the advantages, then we have a disadvantages also. If we are talking about the saves money, yes, that's true. We can easily save the money. But while we are purchasing to the softwares or the applications products to the private clouds, it is somewhere expensive when we compare with the public clouds. First point. The second is, if I'm talking about within an organization, simultaneously we require an IT expertise team, so that they can manage the overall system, they can make our infrastructure more reliable, and simultaneously they can provide the more and more services to their employees within an organization. Now after that, we are going to talk about the hybrid cloud computing. If I'm using the word hybrid, it means in a dual mode. If it is a dual mode, then we can say it is a combination of both public and a private clouds. Somewhere some services are being available for the publicly, and some services is being available on a private side also. Generally, in the case of hybrid cloud, it helps the companies to maximize their efficiencies, so that they can deliver the better performance to their clients. If they are providing some data or some parts of the data into the publicly, so it means there is no confidential into that data. It can be used in any form. It can be accessible by any organizations. But if I'm talking about their sensitive data and confidential data, in that case they have to talk about their cloud as a private. Now if I'm talking about the advantages of using a hybrid cloud computing, it is scalable, because we can easily expand and shrink our data or our network. Simultaneously, it is cost effective. It is less budget than the private or public clouds, because somewhere we are having up some part is to be available publicly and some part is to be available privately. That's why we can say it provides a cost efficient. The next is it offers a better security, because on the case of private networks, it provides a better security, because we need to maintain the confidentiality of the data as well as the security of that data. And simultaneously, it offers a greater flexibility also. Now, if I am talking about the disadvantages of the hybrid cloud computing, first of all, if I am generating a combination of both public and private, so in that case, first of all, we have to maintain the infrastructure. Once we are creating the infrastructure, it means everything is to be dependent onto the created infrastructure. And the simultaneously, the second disadvantage is, once we are providing the or once we are going through the public cloud, it means we have to think about the security also. So there is a possibility of security breach through the public cloud. Now you can see the difference between the public, private and hybrid clouds by using the differences parameters. The first is tenancy. If I am talking about the tenancy, in the case of a private cloud, there is a single tenancy. Why there is a single tenancy? Because there is only a single organization in the cloud which is stored the data in the cloud. So there is a single tenancy. If I am talking about the public cloud, in the case of public cloud, there is a multiple tenancy. Multiple tenancy matlab, it means that I am talking about a multiple organizations to share or to store the data in a shared environment. But in the case of hybrid cloud, it may be having multiple tenants to the organizations, because some part of the data is to be kept private, but some part of the data is to be public. If they are talking about the private network, in that case, each and every is having a single tenancy. But in the case of public, they have to maintain the multiple tenants. Fine. The next thing is exposed to the public. If we are talking about exposed to the public, in the case of a private network, nothing is to be exposed to the public. Why? Because private cloud is itself for a organization only, and if it is for organization only, so whatever the services they have, it is being provided to their service employees only. But in the case of public, in the case of public, everything is to be provided, so we can say it is being exposed to the public areas. But in the case of hybrid, it is being running in both the modes. So some part of the data can be accessed only within an organization, or some of the services is being accessible to the public anywhere from any location, or it can be accessed by anyone also. The next point is data center location. If I'm using the word data center, we know where we need to store the data, whether on a public cloud, private cloud, or in a hybrid mode, right? So if I'm talking about the public clouds, in the clouds of public, the service providers can access the data through the internet. So we can access the data from anywhere. So there is no data center location. The data is being spread over among the internet so that we can easily access the data. But in the case of private, we are having an network cloud storage space within an organization which exists within the network only. In the case of hybrid, we are having if we are talking about a private services which exist within an organization, but if I'm talking about the public, it is being accessible on the internet from anywhere. The next difference is cloud service management. If I'm using the word cloud service management, the one who is managing the system, how and where it is being managed. So in the case of a private cloud, as we know that it is the part of the within organization only. So in that case, we can say everything is to be managed by their own organization, inside their organization. So if they are managing by the inside the organization, then we can say we are having their own administrators, those who are managing the data. In the case of public, the services is being managed, the services apart from the organizations merely use them. And in the case of hybrid, the organizations itself manage the data on the private clouds, and in the case of public, it is being managed by the CSPs, client service providers. The next, I'm talking about the hardware component. If I'm using the word hardware component, it means we must be provided the organization itself. Whatever the infrastructure they want to create in the terms of hardware storage spaces, physical servers, so that is all being done is to be established within an organization. But in the case of public, everything is to be dependent on CSP, cloud service providers. They have to check their hardwares and working at all the times. In the case of hybrid, it is the combination of public and private hardware components. Now the next parameter is we talk about in the terms of expenses. Expenses means cost. If I'm talking about the cost, everything is to be managed itself. If everything is to be managed itself, it means we are talking about the private cloud. If we are talking about the private cloud, it means they are having a quite expensive, because whatever the resources, whatever the applications, whatever the hardware part they need to use, everything is to be purchased by within an organization or inside the organization itself. But in the case of public, it is little bit less costlier because everything is to be provided by the CSPs. So they have to manage their own system, they have to manage their own accessibilities. And simultaneously, once they have created the network according to the service level agreements, they have to sign the certain agreements, and on the basis of that agreements they have to provide the services. In the case of hybrid, if we are talking about private cloud services, it will within a organization only. But if we are talking about the in the case of public part, then it is being provided or managed by the client service providers. Now these all are the differences among the public, private and hybrid cloud. So we came to know about the public, private and hybrid clouds. Now after, on the basis of that, there are the various types of services, like we are having an infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or a software as a service. In that case, there are on the basis of various premises. These are the on premises ways how we need to maintain or how is being managed by the itself or by the others. So if I'm talking about infrastructure as a service, one after another we will discuss all these types of services one by one. Before that, we should know what types of layers is being managed by infrastructure itself or manages by the others. If I'm talking about the infrastructure as a service, in that case, applications, data, runtime, middleware and operating system is managed by itself. Rest of the things is managed by the others. But in the case of platform, they have to only create a platform in which they have to execute the application part only, and simultaneously they will manage their data, and the rest of the things is to be managed by others only. But if I'm talking about certain softwares, everything is to be managed by others, nothing is to be managed on the client side itself only. Now, first of all, we are going to discuss about IaaS. It stands for Infrastructure as a Service. When we are using the word infrastructure as a service, first of all, we have to talk about the traditional data system. We have to create a virtual environment of a traditional infrastructure, right? So in that case, first of all, we have to use the virtualization technology so that we can deliver a scalable compute resources such as like servers, networks or storage areas to their clients. And simultaneously, in that case, what is the benefit to the clients? That they need not to buy any personal hardware on managing its own components, and they can easily deploy their platforms and applications within the virtual machines. And in this, similarly, they can use the same technologies and capabilities as a physical data center. So this is about infrastructure as a service. Once they have created their infrastructure, there are the certain features that whatever the resources we are providing, it should be highly scalable. Second is, whatever the infrastructure we are grading, it is an enterprise grade infrastructure. Second thing, whatever we are consuming it, we have to depend upon the cost. So everything is dependent, every cost is to be dependent on its consumption. If the consumption is more, it requires more cost. If the consumption is less, the cost is less. The next, if I'm talking about, it is having a multi-tenant architecture. Means we are having a single hardware piece of a server, and in that case we are having an n number of users, whosoever is using that server. The last is, whosoever is a client is having a complete control over that infrastructure. Then we are going to talk about advantages. Yes, as we are talking about a cost effective, so it depends on pay you as you go model pricing. So means whatever you are using it, you have to pay for it. The second is, we are going to talk about, it is a very most flexible and dynamic model. Whatever the model we have, it is very flexible, it is very dynamic, you can use on any platform. And simultaneously, if it is used on any platform, means it is very easy to use due to its automate deployment of the hardware. Now, if I'm talking about the management task, everything is to be virtualized, so the employees will have more free time for other tasks also, because the managements, those who are managing it, they are not, everything is to be virtualized, so they need not to focus every time, so they are having a more free time also. If we are talking about disadvantages, in the case of advantages, we have used the word multi-tenant. If we have multi-tenant, so it means somewhere we are lacking in security. The first parameter, we are lacking in security. The second is, if we are going in a outrages, so vendors outrages makes the customers unable to access their data for a while, right? And last is, if we are talking about managing a new infrastructure into their own locations, then obviously they need a team training. Every time they need a team training to learn how to manage the new infrastructure. Now, where we are using the IaaS? In various companies, those who are small companies, they are having no startup budget, nothing, they want to create their own infrastructure. This is the way we can use the IaaS. Secondly, sometimes if you are growing rapidly company and your demands are unstable and changeable, every time you are growing, your demand is to be not fixed. In that case, you can use an infrastructure as a service. And if you are a large company that wants to be an effective control over the infrastructure, then what we have to do, we have to pay only for the resources which we actually use. Fine. So these are the uses of IaaS. There are the certain examples you can check, like we have in a Microsoft Azure, we have a Google App Engine, We have Amazon Web Services, Line Code, Racksack. These are the various vendors, those who known for the best solutions for the infrastructure as a service. The next is PaaS, platform as a service. When I'm using the word platform, it means we have to create a framework, so that we can create the framework for the software creation which is being delivered all over the internet. Generally, it is being offering on the platform with built-in software components and all the tools in which the developers can create, customize, test, launch their applications, and simultaneously they can provide the vendors servers, operating systems, updates, security patches, backups, and so on. Generally, the client more focus on their application development without worrying about the data, right? Without worrying about the operating system maintenance. They are having only the platform so that they can access their data. There are the various features. As we know that client is having a more focus on developing their applications. The first application feature is allows for the developers for testing, hosting, and testing the applications on the same environment. Whatever the resources they need, they required for their business needs, the resources can be easily scale up and scale down depending upon the client's need. Now multiple users can access the same app environment easily if the user does not have a control over the infrastructure. The next is when we are talking about the database and all the web services, they can be easily integrated with each other. And simultaneously, if the members of the team, they are located on a different locations, they can easily collaborate with each other. Now after that, we are having a PaaS advantages. If it is having a software advantages, then it is highly scalable, it is very easily available, and it is being accessible by the multiple tenants, right? Now after that, we know when we are doing a development, testing, and processing of that data, it is for the development process, it is quick and simplified method. Now after that, we can reduce the expenses for creating, testing, and launching applications. And it is also easy to allow us to migrate to the hybrid cloud. And somewhere, once we are talking about the amount of coding, it is being reduced in the case of platform as a service. There are certain disadvantages, like we are having a flexible security issues because our data is not secure. If we are more dependent upon the vendors' speed, reliability, and their support. In the case of compatibility, somewhere we need to compatible with the existing environment only. We cannot create our own environment and so on. If we talk about the multiple solutions to such profitable developers who wants to spend a more and more time in coding, testing, and hosting or deploying their applications, they are having a various benefits. The first is they can develop, or we can say multiple developers can work on a single project on a remote locations. Second, other vendors must be included also. If we are working with one vendor, we can easily include the other vendors also as per our need or for the developing that particular project. And simultaneously, we can also create our own environment to customize your own applications. So these are the various examples, like we have a Google App Engine, we have Amazon AWS, we have a Azure Cloud Services, and so on. Those who all are providing the best solutions for the platform as a service as a vendors. The next is SaaS, software as a service. With this offering, users can easily access to the vendors cloud-based softwares. Whatever the softwares they are having, that is being accessible by the vendors only. Users do not have to download or install the SaaS application on their local devices, but they just need to plug in their devices onto those applications and they can easily access the data. It is being provided on their local devices, fine. And simultaneously, in the case of remote cloud network, they can easily access their data through the web APIs. Fine. In the case of SaaS, it is the most common category of the cloud computing, because through the SaaS, we can provide everything from the hardware stability to the application execution. So that is why most of the clients are dependent upon the providers in the case of SaaS. There are the certain features which is being provided by the SaaS. The subscription model of utilizing means whatever the things we are doing it, we can take a subscription for that particular model and we can work onto that application. As we know that client can access their data from anywhere and need not to concern for rest of the things. That's why we need not to download any software, we need not to install or upgrade any software. All the resources is being scaled up and scaled down as per the requirements of the users. And whatever the applications we need to access, they are from any connecting devices. And for everything and everywhere, the provider is only responsible in the case of SaaS features. Now, if I'm talking about advantages, there are the various advantages, like there is no hardware cost because we need not to spend any amount of time. If we want to start up our business, there is no initial startup cost. Fine. And in the last, we are having a scalability. Whatever we are using it, we have to pay for the model. We can easily customize the things and so on. There are the various disadvantages. If everything is in a hand of providers, so there is a loss of control also, there is limited range of solutions also, and simultaneously connectivity is must. In the case of SaaS, if you need to start up a company in a ready-made software quickly, then you can use that part. If you want to use your application on a temporary basis, then you can use the SaaS. And for the applications that need both web as well as mobile access, we can use the software as a service. So there are the various examples. In the case of SaaS, those who are providing the services or solutions to our vendors, like we have an Office 365, go to the meeting, we have a Salesforce, we have Gmail, we have a Dropbox and so on. Thank you.